Update 2.5 Ixwa Strike is coming out soon, and with it, some devlogs on new ships. In this video I'll cover the first 3 naval devlogs on HMS Blackpool, Z25, and SMS Kaiser. First up, HMS Blackpool. It's a British frigate from the Cold War. The listed positives are lots of torpedoes, a sizable crew complement, and good mobility, with the only con being listed being the low number of cannons. Naturally, I'll be comparing it to other frigates and to destroyers, as that's what it'll face most. It has 12 torpedoes, which are Mark 20 bitters if I'm correct. These torpedoes are anti-submarine warfare torpedoes, having an incredibly low speed of 37 km per hour, a pretty good range of 11 km, and a small warhead with 89 kg of explosive filler. These torpedoes are very bad for surface warfare, so having a lot of them isn't really much of a pro. They were also removed in real life for having programming issues, so they weren't exactly good there either. The sizable complement is also debatable, as it had a crew of 152 initially and 225 later on, which is lower than most destroyers. The mobility is also subpar, with only a 56 km per hour top speed, again getting beaten by most destroyers, which will be its most common enemy. For cannons, it has a dual 4.5-inch 114mm cannon like that of the battle class on the front, and a dual 40mm Bofors in the back. For battle rating, I think it would fit best at 3.7. It's slow, easy to disable, and probably just as easy to kill, and has a pretty low armament compared to most destroyers. It could also be serviceable at 4.0, but at that BR it's stretching it a bit. If it comes in at 4.3 or higher, it simply won't be worth using. For economy, it'll be at the end of the British tech tree, probably costing 380,000 RP just like other top tier coastal ships, costing as much as a dreadnought for something that really isn't worth that much. Overall, I can't recommend this ship, it just seems a bit weak. It'll be much weaker than some blue water ships you can unlock in under 10 matches, when it would take hundreds to get to and unlock this thing, so it just won't be worth it. Also, there are quite a few complaints saying that we don't need our Cold War vessels, however this one is easily under most World War II ships in capability, so I would say that's not really a concern. The most concerning Cold War vessels we could get are things with anti-ship missiles, which we only have one of so far, and luckily it's a small one. Next up is Z25. This one doesn't have a full devblog, only a picture and a small bit of text telling it's in a 4-gun version with a lot of rapid-fire anti-air weaponry, but from that it can be assumed that it's in a late refit. It's a Type 1936A Narvik class destroyer, being similar to the Type 1936A mob we have in game, but with one less main cannon and a lot more anti-air power. From what I can tell, it'll have 10 fully automatic 37mm cannons and 16 20mm cannons, but it may be in a slightly different loadout, so we'll have to wait and see. The 150mm cannon is worse than the 128mm cannon for anti-destroyer duties due to having a lower fire rate and worse accuracy, but it punches above its weight against cruisers due to having a pretty strong SAP shell. If it's at battle rating 4.3, it'll be like a Type 1936 that's better against cruisers, but worse against destroyers, along with having some additional anti-air weaponry. It'll also have a special role in enduring confrontation since the 150mm has a better range than the 128mm, so it could potentially be better on larger maps if it's available for first spawn. If it's at 4.7, it would just be a worse Type 1936A mob, a better second spawn in an up tier than a standard German destroyer, but still nothing worth noting. If Gaijin does what they did with HMS Garland and puts it a step higher than the tech tree ship since it has more AA, it'll be a 5.0, and it would just be worthless there. Hopefully it winds up at 4.3. As soon as I get it, I'll work on a review for it. Up last for this video is SMS Kaiser, Germany's 3rd dreadnought class. I talked about this one recently in a video about ships that could be added to War Thunder, but now that it's actually coming, it's worth talking about again. The listed pros are excellent armor protection, large caliber cannons, and torpedoes. The listed cons are poor AA protection and low mobility. The armor, cannons, and poor mobility are all normal for dreadnoughts, so not really worth noting. The torpedoes aren't really an upside. I've only seen a battleship torpedo something once in War Thunder, and everyone else has them except for one of the German ships, so they're not really worth noting. As for the AA protection, it can't easily shoot down aircraft, but aircraft can't easily kill it, just like with the other dreadnoughts. Only a PE-8's 5,000 kg bomb or both of a Ju-288's 1,800 kg bombs can consistently do much to a dreadnought, with most other aircraft ordnance doing little to no damage outside of some random ammo detonations. Kaiser has a similar gun layout to Von der Tann, but with a second turret towards the stern and a super firing pair, so it can get 10 cannons onto a single target. The middle turrets are a bit more restricted, similarly to that of Invincible, but a 10-gun broadside is still possible. It also has 12-inch 305mm cannons, the same kind as Helgoland does. These are likely to keep their 3-round permanent fire rate, with Germany being the only country in War Thunder with dreadnoughts that fire that fast. They actually had a slower reload rate than the British dreadnoughts at realistic engagement ranges due to gun loading angles, but that's not modeled or taken into account, so they'll just keep this advantage. The armor is also better than that of Helgoland, which was already incredibly well protected. This will be the best dreadnought in the German tree, and it only really has competition from Maria as the top dreadnought in the game. Of course, more dreadnoughts are likely coming, so we'll have to wait and see what everyone else gets before trying to figure out what ships will be the best of the update. For BR, there is sadly no discussion. It'll just wind up at 6.0, since Gaijin considers decompression impossible at the moment. That means the Kaiser will only add onto the extreme compression Naval is experiencing, just like any future dreadnought additions or the final nail in the coffin for the entire top bracket, premium dreadnoughts, if and when those come. Really, what it would take for this to be even somewhat balanced is every single capital ship going up to 6.3, then half of them going up to 6.7, and cruisers being decompressed up into 6.0. Even then, there would probably need to be a 5.7 or 6.0 BR gate to maintain any semblance of balance. Of course, none of that will happen, so Kaiser is just going to be more power creep on top of the already most power crept BR bracket. Hopefully this at least opens the door to decompressing dreads with more of them present, but considering how people were saying that about 5.7 cruisers for almost a year and a half and it never happened, probably not. Those are the first 3 devlogs for naval vessels. I'll be sure to cover any more coming out in the future, along with the dev server when that comes out. Thank you for watching.